I get this question all the time, like, how many followers do I need to get brand deals? How many subscribers do I need on YouTube? Like tell me, right? Because that's a very conversion metrics focused mindset. The reason that creators go there is because that's the headspace that they live in all day long, right? Because they're analyzing their own content against how did my content do last week? Because you care about that, you assume that that's what brands care about. You have so much more value to bring to a brand than just the organic distribution that you have on your social platforms.
Hey, you're going to love this interview with sponsorship coach Justin Moore. Justin and his wife have spent more than a decade creating content on YouTube. They have landed millions of dollars in brand deals for themselves, which has led to him founding an influencer campaign agency that has placed millions of dollars worth of deals in other creators' pockets. Today, Justin is teaching creators how to land those deals for themselves. In this interview, we cover it all. And Justin shares some juicy details about the potential of Amazon Live. Lots of good stuff in this interview. Stay with us. Justin, welcome to the show, man. I'm excited to be talking with you.
Yes, thanks for having me, man. Let's do it.
So I actually have I've never started a conversation like this before. You and I have something in common that I don't know if I've ever met another human on this earth that have the same situation.
Okay.
We both have names that are also the names of a famous country music singer. Am I right?
100%, 100%. I can't tell you how many times I'm making a dinner reservation or a hotel reservation and people say, the famous country music star? And I'm like, no, not the famous country music star. So I have SEO challenges for my personal brand, I would say, which is both a pro and a con, I guess.
Yeah. So Aaron Watson is a similar country music star. I am not a big country music aficionado, so I have no like sort of commentary on the quality of the music or if it's a good person to be confused with. But I've gotten the tweets being like, "Can't wait to go to the Aaron Watson concert."
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
"Hope you have a good time." I'm not going to be there.
All the time. Yeah, same.
Right on. So I'm interested to kick things off. How does that inform the way that you've named your little constellation of businesses? Because you have a family YouTube channel that you do with your wife. You have an agency that is focused on assisting with influencer marketing campaigns, and now you have this next brand that you're creating, which is focused on assisting influencers, content creators with landing brand deals for themselves. I'm sure you get to trade on your name a little, but it's kind of hard knowing that there's that other entity there.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, I wish I could say it's been strategic over the years, but it has not. I like you, I didn't get we did not get into creating content on social media as a business. It was very much like for my wife, especially when she started out, it was very much a hobby. She started her first YouTube channel in 2009 when there was no even partner program. You couldn't make money. Like, it was like not a thing. Right. And so she was just stoked to get free products, like free makeup and cosmetics. That was what she was stoked about in the beginning. And so all of the channels, whether it's the family channel or the cooking channel that we started, or actually, most people don't know this, but prior to actually, educating creators around sponsorships, I had an advice channel, Aaron. I was actually giving life advice, relationship advice, all that stuff. And so all of those channels just kind of evolved very organically and naturally. And it was never like, oh, this is going to be another, feather in our cap for our business strategically. And so there's been a lot of needing to kind of take a step back and figure out, now that we do know, now that it has been a full-time business for both of us over the last 8 years or so, we've definitely tried to be a lot more strategic and diversify things and be more mindful about how we're naming things and things like that too. So I will say this Creator Wizard stuff of the business side of the business that I started 2 years ago definitely gave that one a lot more thought than the other stuff.
Well, it's the type of thing where, if you're paying attention, there's brands that have, even if they're, I don't want to say small, because that I don't mean that in like a disparaging way, but just like nascent, on the rise, that are really, thoughtfully put together and crafted. When I come across the content that you put out associated with your current focus, which is helping these content creators land sponsorships, there is a kind of cleanliness to the name. sponsorship, like the way you've named everything, helping me very quickly on ramp into understanding how you can help me, what the potential role is going to be, or what the potential kind of service is going to be. Which when people start off, they make 1,000 different mistakes, as I'm sure you guys did, and you kind of learn through going the ringer a bit.
Yeah, the I was very the evolution of how I have positioned myself as a sponsorship coach. That, like, if you go on Twitter and look at my headline, it's like Justin Moore, sponsorship coach, right? That was not how I started. It was very much like I thought that I want to teach people the business of being a creator. That was like my tagline. If you on my YouTube channel, that was like that, like the subtitle and everything like that. And that was still too confusing to people. Like they didn't really get like, so are you going to help me like get monetized on YouTube? Are you going to like help me like start merch, or like what are you going to do? Right. And so like sponsorships definitely is my wheelhouse for sure. But like I had a follower DM me about 6 months ago, 9 months ago, maybe now, and basically say, why are you talking about anything other than sponsorships? Like, this is clearly your expertise. Like, stop talking about that other stuff. And I was like, that's a really good idea. And so ever since I got that like feedback, it was so obvious to me. And so I changed everything about my business. I call myself a sponsorship coach now, because now when people read that who don't know me, they say, well, what is that? Like, well, he's not a manager. He's not an agent. Like, he's actually coaching, he's educating, he's teaching me this thing that seems difficult and complex. And so that just, it's so interesting how you can make just a very minor change to the way in which you're positioning yourself to your market that can have a really profound impact.
And there's also, you so naturally on ramped into the next thing I want to discuss, which is you're saying it's a sponsorship coach, which I guess I struggle. I've not struggle. I would love to hear from you. What, if any, you point to as an analog to that, because we live in this time when anyone can create a YouTube channel. There's thousands. In the advertising world, they'll call them micro influencers. For the normal person, they'll say it's someone with a small following. But back in the olden days of Mad Men, there was the advertising agency, there was the talent agency, there were the production houses, and there were the media companies that had all the distribution that decided what to show there. And obviously, we don't need to get into every detail of how that's splintering apart, but when you look to the past, is there anything that you see as like, okay, I'm taking a piece of this, a piece of that to form something new? How do you think about that in the context of media?
Yeah. So from my perspective, it very much was, so my wife and I have been creators for over a decade, doing literally, we've done hundreds of sponsorships at this point, made over $4 million. Like, I'm very transparent about it. I talk about a lot of this stuff because no one does. That's another thing, is like, it's like all kind of very hush hush and taboo. And so that's one thing. So we've been in the trenches doing so many deals, but then I've also run an influencer marketing agency focused on family friendly creators for about 7 years. And so I've been on the other side, and I've helped I've been in the room with these brands and media agencies and much larger organizations who subcontract us, right? They kind of white label us to execute these influencer activations on their behalf. And so it's like a very different thing to see, like, they say to us, the agency, hey, we want to spend not $5,000 working with one creator. We want to spend $500,000, right? And we want to work with 50 or 100 influencers. It's like a totally different conversation, right? It's like much as 30,000 feet now. It's like, what platform should we be on? Right? Like what types of, should it be long form content, short form content? Like who should we be targeting? Right. And so like that is the perspective that I brought to the education aspect, because I've been on both sides of the fence, and I basically wanted to kind of pull back the curtain and tell creators, this is actually how it's happening behind the scenes. This is why the brand is choosing your friend and not you. Right. And so the analog to me is like, I've seen both sides of it, but I get so much more satisfaction out of, I guess, teaching creators to fish, instead of, because when I started the agency, I was like, like, this is cool. I'm providing a livelihood for these creators. I'm actually, helping them. I'm basically I'm killing the fish and just giving it to them, right? Which I thought was cool for a while, right? But it actually is way cooler if you could just teach them these basic kind of core foundational principles about like how to be more confident, negotiation strategies, how to position your expertise as a creator to these brands and other agencies, so that you can create a sustainable career as a creator. I just get so much more joy out of doing that. And so that really was the why I decided to do this. And so the parallels to me in terms of coaching is like, I've seen lots of other types of coaches. I've seen life coaches. I've seen, I had an executive coach for a while when I ran my agency. So it's like, I know that like expertise exists, but I'd never really seen someone do it for like just this thing. Because the very interesting thing is that there is this cohort of creators who, let's say, they're between 10,000 followers maybe and 150,000 followers on social media, and they're not quite big enough yet to have a manager, right? Like to really justify having someone on their team like that, but they're making money. They're doing brand deals. They are, directly monetizing their audience through digital products or through, fan funding, or they're, whatever, right? And so it's like they need guidance. There's this giant void. They need mentorship. And so that was the void I was hoping to fill.
Got it. And so you're also, I mean, you've sat in the seat, so but help make the case for me, because part of my thinking was, number one, I like making business content. I know that there are plenty of people that want the business audience, the Morning Brew being like the kind of tentpole example of a new media firm that can get absolutely, blue chip advertisers for them. But my basic mindset was, until you are at some kind of scale, the likelihood that you can earn really, like in my mind, move the needle sums is more likely to come from selling a service or selling some sort of product and deepening your kind of monetization of that audience versus going for a kind of advertiser media company type of relationship, which is still how I see these kind of brand deals working. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, 100% false. So I think this is a big myth, which is that, I get this question all the time, like, how many followers do I need to get brand deals? How many subscribers do I need on YouTube? Like tell me, right? Because that's a very conversion metrics focused mindset when it comes to, like, okay, well, if I reach out and I pitch them, I have to say, oh, I get this many average views per video, or like, these are how many eyeballs, or here's my audience demographics or insights, or, blah, 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 blah. This is the reason that creators go there, is because that's the headspace that they live in all day long, right? Because they're analyzing their own content against, how did my content do last week? It's like, it's a very lonely island that you're on often when you're a creator. And so because you care about that, you assume that that's what brands care about. And so it's one of the most fundamental things that I teach in a lot of my content and my courses and coaching and so on, is that you have so much more value to bring to a brand than just the organic distribution that you have on your social platforms. So for example, one of the easiest ways to make lots and lots of money starting out as a micro influencer, micro creator, is to target brands that have a terrible social media presence, right? You probably know, right? Like, you go and you look on a lot of brands YouTube channels, and the only thing they're posting on there is like their 30-second TV spots or something like that. Maybe it's a SaaS company, right? And they're posting like literally, like, you understand that does not work on YouTube, right? Like, you can't do that, right? And so like a very easy thing to pitch is you reach out and say, hey, like, I think there is a tremendous opportunity for your brand to actually tell long form stories around why your product or service is relevant to your audience. So the pitch and the proposal that I'm giving to you is not that I'm going to create a bunch of content up for my 100 YouTube subscribers. It's, I'm going to create exclusive content that only lives on your YouTube channel. Right. And that's going to be $5,000 a month or whatever it is, whatever you pitch. But you see how that is, you completely detach you can completely detach your rate that you're charging from your following, because at that point, it's not about leveraging your audience, right? And so that's just like a very small example of like how you need to think about your expertise as a creator, because at that point, your platform just becomes your portfolio.
And really what you're also articulating is having an itinerary of the whole comprehensive set of skills that you have, which is, hey, we have the video production skill, or I take, the best photos, or I can really put together a funny TikTok. And that is a skill in demand as much as the audience that I've cultivated is that, the company is also willing to pay for.
Well, 100%. And there's this concept that I love talking about called your BATNA, which is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement, right? And so both sides in a negotiation have a BATNA, right? So your BATNA is, okay, if I don't work with this brand, what are my other monetization alternatives, right? So maybe I'm making money on affiliate marketing, maybe I have merchandise, right? So depending on how diversified you are in your creator business, it's going to be easier or harder to turn down a deal or negotiate, harder for this particular opportunity. But by contrast, or by the same token, the brand also has a BATNA. So if they don't partner with you, and remember, you have a very particular set of skills, Liam Neeson style, right? Who else are they going to hire? Especially, this is so critical for people who have a very defined niche as well. Because let's say you're a quilting creator, or you're a B2B finance, maybe you review B2B SaaS products on your YouTube channel, or you have a newsletter or something like that. There is not like thousands of those. There's maybe tens of those, right? And so the brand is thinking, okay, well, like if we don't hire Justin or we don't hire Aaron, what are our alternatives, right? And so it's so important to have those mindsets when you're going into these types of negotiations, because it can be so it will determine how, not only how hard you press, but what you pitch. So like I'm such a geek out over negotiation stuff like this, because creators, I have found, like, the number one obstacle that stands in their way is just not knowing what they don't know, right? And it's just because they didn't get into this to be like a business person. They got into it for the love of the craft.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing. I mean, I noticed clearly it's from experience with your family, is, the early stages of either family style vlogging or makeup tutorials or cleaning, or some of these videos that your wife has really been, like you said, putting out there since 2009. Holy smokes. There's a degree to which you have to either evolve your skills or have the complementary partner in place who can kind of take that role on, so that you can focus on continuing to make good content.
I mean, a perfect example of this, Aaron, is that, we're YouTubers at heart. Like that's where we first started and all this stuff. So we've been pumping out YouTube content for years and years and years. We actually were daily vloggers for over 3 years, didn't miss an upload. So like, we know the grind, right? These is like a 15, 20-minute video. It's like, by the way, I don't recommend anyone ever do that for your mental health, by the way. But so about 18 months ago, we made a gigantic investment into both our time and resources into live commerce. So we have been doing an Amazon live stream every single week for the last year and a half. And what Amazon Live is, if you're not, for those listening aren't familiar with it, it is essentially, think about like QVC, but for creators, right? So this format is actually gigantic in Asia and has been for the last couple of years. And so, it's basically where you talk about a product, there's like a carousel below the video, and you have a auxiliary app where you're controlling the carousel. So the moment you start talking about the next item, you kind of like touch the product and you shift the carousel. So it snaps to the timestamp of you talking about the product. And you can click the product, add it to cart on Amazon, and if they check out, we get a commission. And so like the numbers and the revenue that we have seen doing this has just been astronomical. And for us, like the deciding to go down this route was not necessarily about the commissions, because we've been as Amazon associates for over a decade. That's obvious. But for us, we were like, the power to do sponsorships with this format is going to be enormous, because this is like the holy grail for advertisers in terms of attribution. They can see, if they sponsor our live stream, they can see how many products we sold, right? And so for us, we were like, let's get really good at this thing, because in 2 to 3 years, when the tidal wave starts coming for live commerce, we are going to be front and center. We're going to have honed our skill set over the last 2 years, being really good in a dynamic environment, being able to interact with the audience, right? Sell the products. We take this very seriously. If you look at any of our live streams, it's really high production value. There's multiple cameras and all this stuff. And
is that what you mean by the high investment into doing the way your live studio is constructed? Is that what you mean?
So the live studio is what you're looking at right now. It's our office, right? So there's this is one camera, and then my wife sits over here, and I switch between the two cameras. People always ask, "Are you guys in the same location?" We're like, "Yeah," and they switch the camera, and you can see her. But not only investment in learning about how to do this stuff, because we were never doing that before. Maybe we did an IG live or YouTube live or something, but it wasn't. It's very different, doing it live commerce, right? But also time. Right? We are we're already on all these different platforms. We're doing all these deals. I have the agency, I'm educating creators, so much stuff we're doing. But it was are we really going to spend invest several hours per week that we don't have, the time that we don't have into this thing? We sat and we thought, yes. You know why? Because like I said, your job as a creator, it's not an accident that we've been able to be full-time creators for over 8 years doing this. It's not an accident. We've always had not only our eye on the horizon, but we've had our eye on where the ball is going to be, not where the ball is right now. right? And that's so critical as a creator, because if you just follow what everyone else is doing, then it's going to be really easy to get lost in the crowd. But if you're at kind of the cutting edge, and I can't tell you, we're on the phone constantly with brands and agencies doing this kind of education. When we pitch like, hey, do an Amazon live stream with us, they're like, what is that? And then we get on, we explain it to them in 30 minutes, and then they go out and pitch us to 20 of their clients, right? So it's like there's such an advantage to kind of like having the fortitude, or having the mindset to or the bravery, I guess, like to do stuff like this and take the risk, because it easily could have flopped, like for sure, right? But it's like we've been doing this long enough that we made a kind of calculated risk that we're like, no, this is going to be something.
And so just to get more mechanically into that, Amazon acquired Twitch for like $970 million, probably like a half decade ago now. It feels like just yesterday, but that's the nature of time, I guess. And so what they're basically doing is integrating the live video platform into their retail platform, and all the kind of intelligent wow videos on screen, graphics being able to be automatically populated is also, they use it on Prime Video and all that other crazy stuff.
Yep.
And so basically the thesis is, this is a trend. If you see any sort of trend really blow up over here, it's a timeless business model to say, hey, those Japanese, they love sushi. I bet some New Yorkers would love sushi as well.
Well, I think the thing is also, and yes, they definitely are utilizing the Twitch technology for a lot of this, for a lot of the technology they've used for Amazon Live. But for us, it's more than that. It's actually, as a creator, we now have a completely new content format that we didn't have before, right? Yeah. So it's one thing to offer a brand or an advertiser, or even like tell our followers like, hey, go check out the, this vacuum we're using in the cleaning video, go check out the link below, like it's an affiliate link or whatever. Like that is a completely different experience, like a passive linking strategy for your business than like, tune into our live show every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, where the entire point is to talk about products that you can buy, right? It's like a totally different like dynamic. And so like, again, like we now have this kind of in our arsenal for us to, any advertiser that comes in from Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or wherever, we say, hey, yeah, sounds like an awesome opportunity. Would you also like to do an Amazon live stream on, as part of this partnership, right? So again, it's just like continuing to build out our business as creators to, weather and have a sustainable career for the long run.
So it sounds like you're busy. I know you guys are also parents. But what's interesting is anytime someone has what I can use the constellation of businesses again, where you have the agency you referenced, you have the coaching business, there's the channel that, it's beyond just a YouTube channel now. It is a platform of your own family media entities, media products that can be sold. How do you, I guess, in a vacuum, think about the allocation of your time towards those things? Because the coaching, that's a cohort-based course. We've had Wes Kao on before talking about cohort-based courses. That's like no small time investment. So how do you do that? And then simultaneously, how do you and your wife balance those businesses out as well?
We have a complicated relationship with work-life balance, I would say, like especially because our personal social media business is our life, right? Like our family channel, it's like we document it's kind of like home movies 2.0, so to speak. And so when you're a full-time creator, especially creating content around your life and everything, there's a complete blur between business and life. It's not like we come home at 5 o'clock and we shut it off. No, it's like we're working constantly. We're always on, essentially. So it is difficult. I will say though, like we're very fortunate. We have the ability to, we have had the ability to like be very, very present in our kids' life almost every day of their life for like, the first like 5 years, 6 years before they started going to school, obviously. So like so many benefits to it, but like for sure there is the other coin of like we're working constantly. Like we work way harder than I ever did. I was in medical devices prior to like quitting and doing this. And so like work way harder than we ever did before. However, like my mindset around like how to allocate times for the different things that we're doing is that to some degree it's like, where are we having the most fun, right? Yeah. Because it's one thing to like like we have been there to like I said, we did daily vlogging. Like the money's there, like obviously. Like if you do that, not only volume of content, but like, people tune in a lot more regularly when it becomes a daily habit. So your check sizes increase in terms of the monthly viewership with AdSense and more ad inventory for sponsors and all that stuff. So it's like we've been there. Like we've been, we've seen those checks and we've done that whole thing, but like from a mental health perspective, it's just not worth it. And so we've really dialed back on the volume of content that we've done over the years. And so now it's just like paying attention to the things that we really enjoy. The Amazon Live stuff for us is an absolute blast. We love it. We're good at it. It brings in good money. So it's like the best of both worlds. Like my wife has always said, she used to watch QVC all the time growing up. And she always said, like HSN, like, oh, that I would love to do that one day. Like she always said, this is her dream job. Right. And so I love being able to kind of support that dream for her. And then for me, like the coaching stuff also is like, I have been gravitating to this so much over the last like 2 years. First of all, I did not expect this to take off the way it did, because like at first it was like you said, I've had this experience out on both sides. Let me just make a bunch of like some YouTube videos, like of mistakes that I'm seeing everyone make, like, how to, negotiate with the brand, or like pricing mistakes, or like these very simple things. Right. And then I started getting requests. I started getting DMs like, hey, can you make a video about this? Can you coach me? Right? Can you do one-on-ones with me? I was like, sure, I guess so. Like, let me figure out how to like price for that, charge for that, or whatever. Right. And then, oh, do you have a course? And I was just like, course? Like, really? And so a lot of this like happened so naturally. Aaron, I had 3 creators in the first beta of my course, like cohort number 1, like a year and a half ago. I have 58 creators in my course now, right? In this current cohort that I'm in. And it's not like a $50 course. It's a $2,000 course, right? So it's like people, there is this huge like appetite and hunger for knowledge. If you are a professional in any other business and you want to advance your career, what do? You go back to school, you get a professional certification, right? Like to be able to like get on that trajectory. When you're a creator, what do? There's no formalized education like to actually advance yourself as a career. And these are people who are making lots and lots of money, right? So it's like, to me, there's so much growth potential. I get so much more excited. And so kind of to answer your question, it's like, I just kind of go where, you kind of, that Venn diagram of like, your audience and your interests and your zone of genius or whatever. It's like the sweet spot. And so for us, it's like kind of just following that.
And there's been a couple times in my career, and I've interviewed enough entrepreneurs now that it seems like a consistent theme. First of all, we've got you more than 10 years in the game. So Malcolm Gladwell would check off the like 10,000 hours rule or whatever for you. But there's what you are articulating is being pulled versus just pushing relentlessly into something where you had these things that you needed people to hear, but people are like, hey, can you give me this? Can you sell me this? Please I've got dollars, bring me the goods. And how rare that is. How, anyone before catching that in some way, shape, or form, in the startup land, it's product market fit, but there's so many different iterations of that. So many people waiting to catch the wave, trying to figure out how to find the wave. And it's just interesting to hear and to better understand when that occurs, how seismic of a shift that can be. And then I guess also the other part of the question that I can sense there's a lot to build off here, but you also had this agency. So like, does that start to decay? Do you hand the reins off to someone? Do you sell it? Like how do you think about that as you're like, okay, this wave has got something behind it?
Yeah. So, for sure, that I have thought at length about this push and pull phenomenon, because in the beginning, when I started the agency, it was very much a pull. It was early, right? There wasn't a lot of, people doing this type of thing. And so there was a lot that we had a wedge. It was like very specific. But over time, for sure, it's become so saturated. It's become super fractured. There's, the PR agencies and the media agencies spinning up influencer divisions and things like that. So it's like everyone is kind of vying for a shrinking pie when it comes to, even though the overall pie is growing in terms of dollars going into this space. It's just like anyone and their brother or sister can like throw up a landing page and be like, I have an agency, right? So it's like, it's not a difficult business to get into. And so for sure, like over time, we have experienced it to, the pull like reducing for sure. And then for our personal content, going back to the whole thing about push pull, right? We look at our YouTube versus like the pull that we're feeling with live commerce right now, both from our audience as well as advertisers and, all this stuff. It's like, again, we're just kind of, and then the coaching, same thing. It's like, it's just the market is just pulling me along. Can you do this? Can you do this? The one lesson that I want a lot of people to hear in this, if you are creating content for your personal brand or your business, is I bet you are ignoring what your customers or your followers are asking from you. You just keep pushing, saying, here's a video, here's a video, here's a video, and it's not doing as well as you may have hoped. And then you've got DMs, you've got comments saying like, hey, can you talk about this? Can you talk about this? And either you're not interested in it and you're just like, I don't want to talk about that. Or you'd be like, well, not many people would like really want that, so I'm not going to make a piece of content around it. And it's just like, that is the number one biggest mistake that most creators make, or most business owners make, when it comes to trying to serve their customers, is trying to dispense advice or content that their audience or their customers do not want. Right. And so that's like the most important thing to think about it that you can perhaps extract from this discussion is that just listen. It's like I know a lot of people want to feel like Steve Jobs and just like craft in a vacuum this beautiful invention that they'll just bestow upon their customers or their followers. But the 99.9% of the rest of us, you can't operate a business like that. You have to actually listen and give people what they want, and better yet, ask them what they want. Don't build it yet, and pre-sell it before you actually create it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to change lanes here slightly. So we connected because of the interview that we did with Jake Thomas, who is in, I would argue it's an even smaller, more specific niche than you, which is writing great YouTube titles, of which he is a master. And we actually ended up hiring him to consult with us for a little bit. And he absolutely brought the house down. Had my team members just gassed after the call, like, let's go rewrite all our titles right now. I was like, okay, breathe, but let's also do that.
Right.
And so what's interesting is I was connected to Jake through a friend of mine. But once I started following him on Twitter, there's this whole kind of, once again, I keep using the constellation. I need to come up with a different one. There's this mafia of sorts of service providers, coaches, characters who think deeply about the creator economy and have really niched down, you being one of them. But now that I can you start to chart it if you spend enough time on Twitter like me. So talk a little bit just about, there's the click that kind of happens in a business. There's also the click that kind of happens in being in the in-group of whatever that means. If that's Silicon Valley, if that's banking, if that, whatever it is in the creator economy, it seems like you've clearly kind of planted your flag and found your way into there. How does that sit from your vantage point, and how has that been a wind at your back?
So I made a very intentional decision, Aaron, I remember October of 2020, that I decided that I wanted to be known as the sponsorship guy on social media. And I thought, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to plant my flag, like you said, and I'm going to do it. And it wasn't by accident. I hired a content strategist. I hired someone that I found on Twitter whose strategy I really liked. And I basically had a Zoom call with him. And I said, hey, dude, I really love the way in which you're thinking and talking about the creator economy. His name is Alex. He's based in Spain. But just like really a smart dude. And he had never done this before. He had never worked or like ghostwritten or anything like that. And I said, let me hire you every month, and I want you to ghostwrite content for me. So basically what he does is he delivers me a spreadsheet of a bunch of prompts, basically, or like kind of pithy quotes about being a creator. And he says, what do you think of these? And then I go in and I edit, and then we go back and forth a few times. We repurpose the content for Instagram posts and for LinkedIn and all this stuff, right? And it was basically turned into, we had a certain number of deliverables. And so it's basically like 5 to 10 tweets every single day. And I did this for a year and a half. Okay. And so, it wasn't cheap, right? Like I, paid him well for it's a lot of content, right? You can imagine. Right. And so literally, and it was all about sponsorships, right? And so, when you just do a full court press on a topic for that long at that, kind of quantity, it's only a matter of time before you get known as that person. And the biggest litmus test, I guess, of that this was an effective strategy was that anytime anyone in this constellation, like you say, oh, I'm having issues with the brand, or oh, this is challenging, everyone's just like, talk to Justin. They just tag me 10 people in the same thread. I'll go talk to Justin. Right. So it's like, and it's always beautiful because you open the thread and people also having those issues. They're like, who's this dude? Let me go follow this guy. Right. And so it's like, they put me in this box, right? I'm the sponsorship guy, and that's fine, because you know what, Aaron, I look at being a sponsorship coach as a Trojan horse into all of the other things that I love talking about that are also important about being a creator. So, yeah, sponsorships, I believe you can make a extremely like robust income, a scalable income, consistent income, working with brands. However, you also have to be diversified with, AdSense or, affiliates and merch and direct fan funding strategies and your email list and all this stuff. And so I love talking about all those things. And ultimately, when people do hire me for one-on-ones, they think all they need to talk about is sponsorships. And I'm just like, look, let's take a step back. Let's talk about your strategy here. Right. So, it's become the most beautiful Trojan horse. I did not think about it that way at the beginning, but now I do. And so, yeah, like to answer your question, it was a very intentional move, and it's not for the faint of heart because I had to invest tens of thousands of dollars into this strategy before I even had an offer, before I even had a way that people could pay me. I wasn't doing one-on-ones. I didn't have a course when I started this, but I had that intention, and I had the I had the willingness to do it, maybe because we'd been creators for a while and knew that I could eventually monetize it down the line.
And you had the capital to make that multi-tens of thousands
Yes.
of dollars investment.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there has to be a degree, I would argue, of either ego death or humility that comes with, yeah, I'm okay with just being in that little box to someone else. It doesn't mean that I'm not a multifaceted, soulful individual with my family and the people close to me, but in a kind of public, broad sense, I'm okay on a constrained basis being understood. Is that fair?
100%, because I think a lot of people really struggle with like picking a niche or picking a particular service set that they're going to offer for their business or agency or whatever, because like you said, they'll get bored. They think they'll get bored, or it's just like they, won't have the creative latitude to flex their muscle. Right. And from my perspective, it's the complete opposite, because when I started focusing on just this topic, just the sponsorship stuff, I was like, wow, I can now think of like 1,000 videos to make just about this, right? Because I'm not trying to like make a couple in each and then, analyze the performance of all those and like do some of this and do some of this, right? It's like, no, this is all I talk about. And, like I believe that once you double down, not only will you find a way to be more creative, but your opportunities are going to explode, right? Because now, like when let's say a brand or an advertiser wants to find a creator to work with, do you think they want to work with just like any generic lifestyle influencer or any generic person who talks about investing or business? No, they want to work with Aaron, who only talks about investing for, if you're single and you're, you live in Boston or whatever. This is the Boston Single Guys Investing Club. Or that was a terrible example, but like, I actually worked with a creator who had less than 1,000 followers, and his niche was budgeting for active duty military. That was his niche. And he got hired by a brand, really, awesome opportunity, because he was in this like very specific niche. So like your opportunities will increase actually when you pick a niche. And that's just a small example.
Got it. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic, Justin. You are, your energy, the intensity that you bring to these answers is proof enough that people should be checking out your content. But if we want to direct them towards digital coordinates where they can learn more, where should we point them?
Yeah, the best way to follow me is my newsletter, actually. So I share not only tips about sponsorships and how to be more confident in negotiation, psychology, and things like this, but in my newsletter, I literally share paid sponsorship opportunities every single week for free, right? So it's and I actually, again, going back to the whole, hiring and investing, I actually hire someone to curate the newsletter for me because it's so much work, right? I was doing it myself for a long time. I just couldn't do it anymore. And so, yeah, hired someone to help me with the newsletter. So just go to creatorwizard.com/join. We've got over 6,000 creators on the newsletter now. And then, yeah, I'm just at Creator Wizard pretty much everywhere on social media.
Right on. I know that a lot of your thoughts and content are oriented towards the folks that are trying to build creator careers. I'm curious if there's anything for the folks that are just more in the content marketing side. You talked a little bit about, hiring the writer and attacking that niche. It just kind of stimulated me when to ask you just generally more the content marketing for businesses angle, where they've already got the product or service or the kind of way that dollars are coming in the door and they still want to grow, because obviously that'll help them close more business.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the same strategy can be applied regardless of what business segment you're in. I've actually been really surprised. I've had a lot of people who were, like you said, agency owners, B2B SaaS companies, like podcasters, newsletter authors, a lot of people gravitating to me because like the business of partnerships, the business of sponsorships is like very universal, right? There's always going to be someone that you want to try to align yourself with. And so whether it's partnerships or like, doubling down on a content marketing strategy to like bring customers in. Like my mindset is like, if you are come at it from an audience or customer first mindset and really be like, how can I help them accomplish a goal that my business or product satisfies, or how can I help them achieve something in my life that or in their life that is kind of tangentially related to my business. I think that like you cannot go wrong with that. And so it's just like, don't throw money and just be like, okay, like let's do our SEO strategy and we're going to attack all these keywords. And like it's very much coming from like a us focused mindset, right? Like what do we want to do? What are the keywords we want to own, and like things like that. Obviously that's important, but like when you actually go out and talk to your customers, talk to your followers and say like, what do you want from us? Like what would be most helpful? What would get you to your goals quickest? Like real quickly, I know we're going a little bit deeper on this subject, but like the number one mistake that a lot of creators, a lot of business owners make is when they think about their value proposition as a brand or as a creator or whatever, they think about the demographics. They think about, okay, like, we target customers who are, followers who are 18 to 34 on average and 70% in the United States and like, male or female or whatever, right? It's just like these very generic features, right? But it's actually so much more valuable to think about the psychographics of your audience or your customers and think like what are their interests, what are their behaviors, like what are, do they have kids, do they not have kids, like where like what does their actual like day look like in the morning? Are they on their phone like, while they're trying to get their kids out the door? Are they like, what are they doing at work? Like building out your persona of whether you're a business or whether you're a creator, and then either making content for them or making products to serve them. And I think just not enough people do that. And there's so many things that can be unlocked when you come at it from that mindset.
And it's stimulating a thought that I haven't necessarily had before, but I appreciate you going a little bit deeper on this. It should be relatively easy to do that. And the reason that I say that is if you can't easily come up with we're really talking about is like almost like a stereotypical version of whoever it is, and not in the like reductive, not seeing the complete person way, but in the like, man, I've met enough insurance salesmen to be able to tell you what an insurance salesman's like that type of framework. If it's not easy, that's almost a clue that either more work needs to be done or that probably isn't who you should be targeting with your content, because you don't even really know who it is that you're making it for.
100%. And the easiest way to do it is ask them. Right? Like send out a survey, ask to get on a Zoom call with people. Like one of the best things I did during enrollment for my recent cohort of my course was I literally sent out a link and I said, do you still have questions about whether the course would be a good fit or not for you? Here is a Zoom link. I'm going to be hosting intimate Zoom sessions with up to maximum 10 creators per call. And I did not, this is the first time I did this, and all 50 spots like were filled up within like 3 hours. And I got on the phone 5 straight calls of this, and people were just telling me objection after hesitation after concern. And it was like direct prospective customer feedback that I can now then record. My team can analyze. We can like incorporate it back into the sales copy or the email strategy or whatever. It's just like, most people don't do this stuff, but it's so easy. It's not hard. You just have to give them a conduit, an avenue to actually provide that feedback to you.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Justin, we're going to link to all the stuff that you have going on in the show notes so that people can find it and learn more. It's in the app where you're probably listening to this right now, or at goingdeepwithaaron.com/podcast for every single episode of the show. But before I let you go, Justin, I would like to give you the mic one final time to issue an actionable personal challenge to the audience.
Oh my gosh. My actionable personal challenge for y'all is reach out to that person, reach out to that brand, reach out to that partner, that dream person that you'd love to collaborate with, that dream mentor. Literally, if they don't respond or if they say no, you are no worse off than you were before you did it. And you never know what doors will open by simply shooting your shot.
Shoot your shot. That is the perfect sentiment to wrap up on. Justin, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
We just went deep with Justin Moore. Hope everyone out there has a fantastic day. Hey, thanks for watching to the end of my interview with Justin. If you enjoyed it, then check out our past interview with John Shanahan from Strix. We talk all about building a cosmetics brand, selling on Shark Tank, and principles that he's taken from YouTube into direct-to-consumer retail.